there. Thanks for checking out. Welcome back to America once again. I am still DB Frick. Today, whenever you're watching this, we have a superstar in the writing world of comedy. This is someone who wrote many episodes, produced many episodes, was story editor for many episodes of Friends, and ushered in shows like Veronica's Closet and Trial and Error, which was recently on television, and now is working on a show called Shining Vale, which really sounds really cool. About a family moves into a town, dysfunctional family moves into a cursed house. They'll talk about it a little. And so, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have Jeff Astrof. Jeff, come on down to Welcome Back to America. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
Fantastic, by the way. The coffee is one of the best Zoom waiting room coffees I've had.
I'm glad that coffee was able to make it there in time because I had that droned in. So that's fantastic.
Yes, beautiful. A little bit tepid because of the drone, but worth it. Worth it.
Wow. Okay, you're complaining about the coffee. That's great. You're out.
I complain, therefore I am.
You're out in LA right now. I'm assuming. Yes. You've been out there for a while. You are originally a New Yorker. You're from Long Island, I believe.
I am from Long Island. Yes. I live here long enough to make the G in Long Island. Well, there it goes. All right. So Long Island.
It's catchy like yawns. It's catchy.
Babylon line, Long Island. I could say the Babylon line, start to finish. Yes, I'm from Long Island. I moved out here now. I've lived here over half of my life now. I moved out here in 1991, which seems like it should be 10 years ago, and then maybe 20 years ago, but apparently that's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So I know that's very crazy when I'm meeting writers now and they're like, yeah, I'm kind of old. I'm born in 1994. I'm like, what? This hat was born in 93. So
yeah, and you're about to start meeting writers that were born after 2000.
Oh yeah, my writer's assistant. My new assistant, in fact, was probably very, very close to that, was Y2K. Like, she almost didn't happen because of Y2K. Nobody here remembers Y2K, but...
right, yeah, very few people do.
Yes.
But it's something that did happen. It is part of our history. And
yes.
Part of your history is what was it that made you understand that you were funny or pushed you in the direction of wanting to work in comedy writing?
So I think those are two different questions. I think I knew I was funny because I had like most comedy writers, it was either that or become like a serial killer, just because you have, just, a little bit of a broken home. And my sister is also a comedy writer, and people say, wow, that must have been a funny house. And I was like, no, it was not a funny house. Like, people who grow up in funny houses typically, for the most part, don't grow up to be comedy writers. So, it's like anything else. I think it's a defense mechanism. I think it's also could be, my son has it too, and he comes from a very lovely home. He gets his anxiety purely from nature and a little bit of nurture from me. But so it's not the marriage that gets it. So it's a genetic thing. But I always did comedy. I was on Wall Street. I won a competition called Funniest Man on Wall Street, which, granted, not a high bar. But
was that stand up? Were you doing
stand up? I did stand up comedy with my former writing partner. And but I went to school. I went to undergraduate at Wharton to become an investment banker, and I did that. And I was definitely the funniest investment banker, but that's not such a commodity when you can't do any computer models. So I didn't even know there was such a thing as like writing for a living. I was just gonna be a funny investment banker. And it's very funny because I auditioned for Saturday Night Live. I sent in a VHS back before Y2K, and they chose that year, they picked up Chris Rock. So they went a different way, but boy, did they make a mistake.
Right. Yeah, no, clearly.
Chris Rock does not have Everyone Hates Chris on the air, whereas I have a show on the air, so I think I won.
Right, you did win, definitely. Good way to look at it.
It's a great way to look at it. It's one of the many, many comparisons between me and Chris Rock that you'll hear if this interview goes long
We should tweet that at Chris Rock right now. It would start some media.
I don't think he wants to go back there either because I think he kind of felt the pressure,
Right.
knew whose spot he was taking.
I would get that. I would get that. I feel that too. Um, what was do you remember the first thing that you sold? The first thing, the moment that you were like, I'm a comedy writer now.
So I'll tell you exactly. So I moved out. I was an investment banker, and I moved out to LA with the full support of my parents, who said you'll be back in 2 weeks. A complete failure. So I had that going for me. And I had really at $1,500 to my name, and I spent $1,700 of it the first day, including a car that cost $100 that was not worth it, and that had no brakes. It had a handbrake. So that was my life here. I delivered sandwiches. They called me the sandwich girl for whatever reason, and I owned a suit. And like that was it. I had like two suits and I delivered sandwiches, and that's what I did for like 10 months. And then I was in something called the Warner Brothers Writers Development Program, which I think still exists.
Yes, it does.
And we were asked, because I was a wise ass there with these two guys who were, they had different executive producers come in. I think I'd subsequently done it. And they kind of train you how to write using the Sherwood Schwartz model of the two act structure, and the
Yeah.
character gets into a tree at the act break, and then and then there's a second act complication, and bring them down from the tree. And I was just like a total a hole in there. And then afterwards, they're like, "What's your deal?" And we were just talking, and and they said, "Listen, we're punching up a pilot called Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and do you want to do that?" I was like, "I smell like egg salad because that's my job. I deliver. Of course, I want to do that." And we got into the writers' room there, and I remember driving onto the Warner Brothers lot, and you see the water tower, and it's just like, oh my God, like I'm here, I've arrived, and we get into this conference room, and they hand out the scripts, and I've never seen like a real script before. It's a script of pilot, and everyone's going around the table and like, what do you think of the script? And everyone's like, you've done it again. It was Jeff Franklin who created it,
Right.
and it was like, you've done it again, Mr. Franklin, another guaranteed hit. Ah, brilliant. And they came to me, I was like, I gotta be honest, I don't see it. I was like, it's not so funny to me. I don't really see the difference in the characters. I don't know what you're going for here. I think it needs a lot of work. And so I'm some a-hole who is like, I have a fanny pack full of change because I got paid in change. So like every time I got up, I jingled. Like
That's hilarious.
I was losing money on this because I had to pay for my sandwiches because I didn't want to lose my route. And they're like, interesting. And what do you think? So then I just pitched like a bunch of jokes, and I got like 9 jokes in. And that night, like the guys who had me said, first of all, the guys who invited me said, I'm going to teach you something. You never ever tell a guy who's been working on a pilot for 6 months that the script is not funny or it doesn't make sense or there's no character here. And so like, you are not in that position. I said, but that was true. And they said, of course it's true, but you're just there to like pitch a couple of jokes. And said, fortunately, you got in a lot of great jokes, so they're going to have you back. And that was kind of my MO for the greater part of the first part of my career, was just to be contribute more than I was being an a-hole. And like I always had that balance, and I was a big a-hole in the room, so I had to contribute that much more. And that was kind of my my mode for a long time before I became a showrunner, and then I'm realizing like, oh, those guys are really annoying. Like,
What
but
one of
then
my
the end of that story is that it was great. It was a great week, and then like 2 weeks later, I got a check, and I was like, "What's this for?" And it's like, you got paid for that, and I couldn't believe it, and I couldn't. And I still work at Warner Brothers now. I have an office underneath the tower, and I try to go in and look at the tower with the same amount of like reverence and like sparkle that I did 30 years ago, just to kind of remember that what I do is cool, even though it is grueling, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
it's sort of like church. It's very similar to a church. I've been on that lot in the past, and the history there is there's so much history there.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. Now, one of my favorite people that you've worked with, and I won't spend too much time on this, but You worked on Shit My Dad Says,
Yes.
which was out a few years ago, and I actually used to sit in the audience of that here and
Really?
there. That was a fun one to sit in the audience of. Yeah.
That
Uh,
was It was better to sit in the audience than to be on stage. I'll tell you that much.
why is that?
Well, is one of your favorite people? It's either Will Sasso or Mr. Bill Shatner.
Well, I love Will Shatner. Will Sasso's funny too, who I also believe is a Long Islander. I think he's also from Long Island.
Probably he's
Yeah.
built like one. He's Will Sasso is extremely funny.
Yeah.
William Shatner. It was an incredible experience. Just because you are working with a guy who still feels like he's captain of the USS Enterprise. Like he's just like that's how he carries himself. He never read a script, and the table reads were fantastic because he'd be reading for the first time. And the guy who created the show, Max Muchnick, used to say he felt like he was a guest on the Mike Douglas show there, and he'd be like reading in real time, and he'd laugh and be like, "Who did that joke?" They point to me and goes, "It was the Jewish fellow, wasn't it?" I was like, "Yes, Bill." We can keep going, and it's like, and he would just start like vamping like while he was up there, and it's like that's not what this is. But if you put this guy in front of an audience, he just loves it. And then he would be so the guy was at the time 82 years old, and like I can imagine putting my dad with a script on stage and wouldn't be great. And that was what it was like with him. Is like so the first day, like we would have or 2 days later we have a run through, and he would just be kind of like he wouldn't have a script, and you always have a script like the beginning, and he would just go off and just like kind of say his mind and kind of. And I remember Wendy Trilling, who's the CBS exec, is there. I'm doing a lot of space work here, and looking at the script, like trying to find his lines. I just said to her, "It's not in there." And so they put it down, like, and he would just whatever kind of the mood took him, and we had a talk with him afterwards. And said, Bill, it's great that you're off book, but you're not saying a single line. And he said, well, I think it's disrespectful that people come to a show and they see the actor with a script. And I was like, I think it's disrespectful when the writers write stuff that we don't hear a single word of. But he was like in his mind, everything was a performance in theater, and it was absurd. The whole thing was really absurd. But
What I remember sitting through it is my favorite thing was watching sort of theater in action where things would be rewritten as the scenes were being done. I remember the writers going to the side and watching them and just being like really and rewriting the whole thing and going back to shooting again. And that was
yeah,
happening. I think it was happening a lot. I don't know if
oh,
that's
that
is
happened
that
a
the
lot.
normal.
It happened. It does happen a lot. I hate it. I have to tell you, it's one of the reasons I don't do multicams anymore. And also one of the reasons that I really strove to create my own show so that I got to be the guy who decided, because it is just gut wrenching to sit there. It's like a feeding frenzy, like trying to get a joke in, and this joke that you worked on all week is replaced by a shit joke, like immediately, because
Right.
the audience is like, oh my God, they said a dirty word. But with that show specifically, because Bill wasn't really ever on script, and because he also like he saw it as like a choose your own adventure. I think like being even though typically it's not that, and
Right.
so like he would say to the audience if you were there, he'd be like, the writers like this joke. I pitched this joke. Let's see which one works. And it's like, woo! And we're just like, oh my God. Um, and it was very funny. So he did a bit, and when the writers used to, as you saw, we would all like congregate after he killed a scene because not having read it or rehearsed it, or just not interested in it. Whatever he did, it wasn't malicious. He was just, it was an 82-year-old guy who was trying something
Right.
at the expense of all of our careers. And so he would take the microphone and go to the audience. He goes, the writers are talking. I wonder what they're talking about. And he would put the mic into the scrum. And then David Cohan would dutifully say, he was one of the showrunners, say, I don't know. I think we should write around Bill for this. He's not getting it. And Bill would feign oh, I can't believe they're talking about it every single time. And it was such a pain in the ass because he's doing a bit and we're trying to find something that will make this night get over faster or just like do our job. So one time I wanted to say when the microphone came down, like, let's see what they're talking about. I wanted to say, look, clearly he killed his wife. He could have called 911. He didn't. She was at the bottom of the pool. And that would have ended it. But I did not do that because
I'm so glad you didn't do that. Even not being
you would
there.
have a great story to tell.
Oh God.
But anyway,
Someone's done it. Someone said it to him.
someone.
Someone has. Have you seen some of the stuff they've done to OJ? OJ's been like, just is like, in so many videos of him being brutalized in public, people like faking stabbings and such. It's like,
Why? What did he ever do wrong?
right,
Wow.
right. We're on the
He
same
doesn't, he
page.
doesn't deserve that.
I'm glad to see you're also a smart person.
Finally, look, I watched the trial. I know he didn't do anything wrong. It's all his contemporary references: Y2K, OJ, William Shatner. This is good. This is like I'm in the warm water here. But Bill was very, very funny. People love talking about that. People love. I had a manager after that. Like I decided to get a manager, and they said their main job, was going to be to get that expunged off my IMDb page.
Oh man, that's too. Oh, okay, that's too bad. I would love to have my name associated with him in any capacity, even if it was
You know
terrible.
what? And I have great, great stories. And looking back, it was. I mean, I worked with William Shatner, and that's really
Yeah,
great. By the way, really good guy, like good. I mean, I have stories that I'm not. This would. We only have a certain amount of time,
right.
but I could take all of that time. Every time, by the way, I'm on like a radio show or something, we talk about him, and that's the entire show.
Yeah, no, and what I really want to talk about now is what you have coming up soon. You have
Yes.
a show, and you're actually wearing the sweatshirt right now, Shining Vale.
I'm really a media whore for this, and not only that, I'm drinking from one of the mugs,
Oh,
and
that's great. You should make that more obvious when you're drinking out of it. Like, right,
it's
that's right.
Greg Kinnear on it. It's TV's Greg Kinnear, soon to be TV's Greg Kinnear.
That's one of the things about this show is the cast is crazy.
So the cast is crazy. So the show is called Shining Vale, and I was doing another show, and really I don't. Do you have dogs?
I have had dogs over the years, yes.
Okay. Do you have like a dog that puts a lump in your throat every time you mention the dog? It's like the dog that's the password to all your alarms and stuff like that. Like everybody has that one dog.
Sure.
So I had that one dog. It's Tahoe. If you ever want to like get any of my passwords or anything, it's Tahoe. Now you know. He's the
Sure.
one dog that like, oh God. Rest in peace, Tahoe. Rest in my closet with 6 other dogs I have. It's a terrible situation. A lot of ashes.
What kind of dog was Tahoe?
Tahoe was a Ridgeback pit bull mix,
Okay.
and he had Lou Gehrig's dog's disease, what I call it. And it was terrible, terrible situation. I'll cry. That was my show, Trial and Error, for me. It didn't, and it was I created that show, and it was the first show I got on the air, and it was really my voice, and it only lasted 2 years, but Warner Brothers wanted me, while I was still shooting the second season, they wanted me to come up with another show because they're like, no one does only 10 episodes of TV. Now it's like, whoa, 10 episodes of TV. That's like, that's like the old days. I did 26 episodes of Friends. That's what 13 episodes is the new 26. So I was like, I don't have a fresh, when you're doing a show, especially for when I do a show, I don't know people who have like multiple shows on the air. I can't. It's hard for me to do that, and I hope my friends at Warner Brothers won't see this, but I put everything I have into it, and wardrobe included. I eat, sleep, and drink the show like 24 hours a day. I go to sleep with it, dream about it, wake up with it, and I'm all in. And so they were like, well, we want you to come with new ideas. I was like, I don't have any new ideas. I'm doing this show. And they said, so I met with Aaron Kaplan, who's a big producer, and he said, I'm doing a show with Sharon Horgan. And I'm like, okay, I'm interested. And she said she wants to do The Shining, but as a comedy. I was like, yes, 100%. Because I wanted to do genre bending stuff, only like genre bending stuff. Because I've been doing like, sitcoms for 27 years or something. And it just like, the joke pattern is just like the ridges in my brain are just so worn, like it's an old recording and it's not fun anymore. So I wanted to do something outside that box.
I think audiences can feel that too, watching sitcoms, and that's why they're not as popular as they used to be.
Oh, that's an understatement. They're just not. It's just I can't do it. I don't even watch any comedy now. So I spoke to Sharon about it, and Sharon Horgan said, I want to do she said, I always watch. Whenever I see a horror that's scary and tries to be funny, it's not funny. Or if it's funny, it's not scary. She said, I wonder if we could do a sitcom that would make you shit your pants. I want to do like a shitcom. She said, "Do you think that's possible?" And I thought for like a nanosecond. I was like, "Yes." And the reason I know it is because whenever you're in a horror movie, I'm not a huge horror fan, but one after you scream, you laugh. And I was like, "It's the same thing." I said like the scream is like the finger to the prostate. She didn't. That's where I lost her. Like to get that extra laugh. I was like, if we could make people scream and then laugh, I was like, I'm interested. That's like a whole new level of like screaming and laughing is like I've never seen it. So I got off the phone with her and then I wrote a scene which wound up being the last scene of the pilot just to show that you can do both, and it worked out. It was very weird to write to this scene because I was like, here's what I'm picturing. And she was like, I want to create. Can we do it? Do you think you could create a new genre? And I was like, yeah, I'll try it. In the beginning, it was just like my second job because I was doing trial and error. Then trial and error got canceled, and then I kind of
Truman Capote of comedy.
that's what it's not the only comparison. Me, Truman Capote, Jeff Astrof, and Chris Rock.
Yeah.
It's the Mount Rushmore of something. So I started writing this, and the real thing that I loved about it was that Sharon made the observation, not observation, I guess, research that, and this is the basis of the show, is that women are more than twice as likely as men to be depressed and also possessed, and the symptoms are exactly the same. And I was like, oh my God, I'm on board with this. So and I am very, very lucky to come from a long line of maternal mental illness. So it's like, this is beautiful. I could write this. So, and then the casting process. So we wrote it, we sold it to Showtime. Showtime wanted Sharon Horgan to star in it. Sharon wasn't going to. So then Showtime said we're not going to do it, and then so we then sold it to Starz, and then we had to cast it, and then we were like, okay, and then it's just like everything else. It's you feel good for a second in this business. Like there's only like three really good phone calls you get in this business. Like one, like they're making your pilot, they're picking it up, and then it gets a second season. That's as far as I've gotten. Like that's it. I've never gotten the third season call, and then after that, everything else is terrible. There's not even neutral. Everything else is terrible. So I'm like, okay, you know what? We can cast this thing. It's a great script. People love the script. They always love my scripts until the one guy who doesn't, then it's over. But people love this script, and Sharon's name was on it. I wrote it, but Sharon's name was on it, and Sharon had a lot of cred. And then it was just pass after pass after. Like we're gonna go because you always start with like, we're gonna go really, really the top people out there, and and offer only people, and then pass and then pass and then pass, and then you just start collecting passes, and then it's like it's not very difficult for a writer to doubt him or herself. It's the next option, like other than after you get out of bed, you're like, ugh. So I was like, and it started to get, and then Aaron Kaplan, who's the producer, said like, we got to get someone on this because they're starting to lose faith in it. And like it'd be the first couple. It's like, of course you're not going to, whatever. Kristen Bell is not going to do. I asked Julia Louis-Dreyfus to do it because I worked with her before, and they're like, Julia's not going. Julia's like, I love it, but I'm just finishing up Veep. She just had like, it was. She's like, I can't jump into something else right now. And
whenever I see Courteney Cox, I can see they fit similar.
But it wasn't even that. It was like, I want Julia just because Julia could do anything. But yeah. Julia was like older, and Courteney was older than the character. The original character was like 40 or something. So then, and the only reason Courteney wasn't on my radar for this was because she had done Scream, and I couldn't see her. I saw her as that in terms of horror because there's a lot of horror in it. I saw that in terms of like, okay, it's kind of campy. Scream is kind of campy. Great franchise. Obviously, they're making the 15th one, I think, or they just did. I always liked Courteney. I didn't have so much a relationship with her on Friends, but I liked her. I just never saw her do anything that says this is her. Right. And then she calls me up. We weren't even out to her. She calls me up. She goes, Jeff, it's Courteney. I'm like, Courteney who? She goes, Cox. I was like, how would you expect me to know it's Courteney Cox? The last time we spoke, there weren't even cell phones. Like, how could you say Courteney? And she said, sorry, we're doing a Friends reunion now, so I'm thinking about Friends. Anyway, I read Shining Vale. You wrote that for me. I want to do it. I was like, wow, that's a lot of information. She said, I've never had anything written for me before, and this was written for me. And I was like, wow, it really you're like the sixth person. Like, and then I was like, you really think you can do it? She goes, this was written for me. I want to do this. And then I was like, okay, let me take that back to the team. And, there was some apprehension just because of the whole Scream thing. And we wanted to make sure it wasn't Scream. But like, everyone's like, if you can get Courtney Cox to do your show, that's like, it's just a gimme. It's just a home run. I had never seen her do anything like this. And she told me, she said, like, Jeff, I'm telling you, this, like, I've never been written for before. And I have to tell you, Dan, that she is so phenomenal in this that, like, I can't imagine anyone else doing this. She brings so much. She's so grounded. She's obviously very, very funny. She brings, like, the horror and the mother on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Because it's all like she has a teenage daughter. And really, I went to meet her and I saw her with a teenage daughter. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I want to write this. And I don't think I had to change. I think maybe in the pilot, I maybe had to change one or two lines the way she would say something, and that was it. And it was just like, oh my God, she's right. This was written for her. And then shortly after that, we cast Greg Kinnear. And then I was like, wow, this is like really a thing. And then Mira Sorvino called me. And I was like, this is just like really weird that this is happening. And Mira Sorvino's character has one line in the pilot. One line in the pilot. She's like, I want to do this. I'm like, don't you have an Oscar? She's like, I want to do this. I was like, it's one line. And I was like, and I know Mira Sorvino, of course, because her father was at my breast. So, which is true. My father famously told two people who were in the banking world not to move out to Hollywood. One was Paul Sorvino, one was me. So Mira is the Venn diagram of that of that.
You should give me. I would love his number just to give me some advice. I wanted some advice from your dad.
He's still kicking. He will still tell you not to do it. But so, and then it just like came out, and it's just like and it was really, really great because I didn't, these actors are so, because again, it's like I said, like it's different. It really broke me in terms of writing it, in terms of how to get out of every habit, because I'm like a joke writer, and this is
Right.
all like. And Sharon, I would show Sharon a draft. She's like, "You really gonna do that shitty sitcom joke?" She's like, "You really gonna do a callback?" I was like, "My house was built on callbacks."
Right.
And in fact, not only that, I'm gonna use that as a joke later in our conversation to prove it. And she's like, "No callbacks, no like." So every sitcom joke is like gone, and it really like got me to a place where it's all like character stuff. And Greg Kinnear asked me, "Is like, so do we know like that it's funny?" He's like, I was like, "No, you are." Characters in a very, very troubled relationship. The marriage is very, it's a dysfunctional marriage. It was like Pat had an affair, Courtney had an affair, and then Terry, the husband, wants to salvage the marriage. So he sells everything they have, and they move to this giant house in Connecticut. This old house in Connecticut that for some reason is 300,000 below asking, and they move in and they sell everything to do it. And the first night, Pat sees somebody hovering outside a window, and
Okay.
nobody else sees this person. So it starts conflict, and it's just like it's really, really fun.
When is it coming out? When are we going to be able to see
So,
it?
so Starz just announced that it's going to be premiering March 6th after they have a show called Outlander, I guess, which is fairly popular.
Yeah.
So they paired it with that, and
That's an amazing thing to go after. They're talking about one of the most popular shows in television. You're going on right after.
I understand that. Of course, just because
You.
I'm somebody who immediately goes nuclear on everything. They're like, listen, we're premiering you in March. I'm like, then I'm out. Like, don't you want to hear why? Like, my initial thing is, then I'm out. I go nuclear and everything. It's like, no, it's a good thing. It's like, okay, I'm in. But I'm immediately get defensive and assume, just because I've been doing this long enough, that any news is bad news. So,
Fair enough. We're on the same page there.
yes.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
So Thanksgiving, I'm having a traditional Thanksgiving. I'm going on a concentration camp tour with my son in Poland.
Is that
Like
true?
like our ancestors used to.
Okay.
So I guess it's a different type of thing. Yeah, his school is going to Poland, and like since people
Wow.
get Thanksgiving, yes, it's. I hope it will bring the comedy back home to me because I think that that's a place that I'll kind of realize that my problems dealing with the Studio Network are probably not the worst things that we've ever gone through. But yeah, I don't want to say I'm looking forward to it. That's a weird thing to say. But I feel like it's a good bonding experience with my son. And I don't know if have you been to Poland?
I have taken a train through Poland. I did a little bit of Western.
So did my great grandparents.
I lived in England twice, so I traveled through Western and Eastern Europe a little bit,
Right.
way back. So that was way back though. Jeff, we could actually talk for hours. Obviously, there's so much.
But since you brought up the Holocaust, we're going to stop it right here.
Right, right.
I think listen to what we covered today, though. We covered William Shatner, Chris Rock, Truman Capote, my new show, Courteney Cox, Kinnear, Amir Sorvino, and the Holocaust. I assume this is a sweeps episode.
If this doesn't get me a late night spot, nothing will. This
is your big. This is it. This is your reel right now, all in one.
I appreciate you talking to me today. It's been a great conversation. You're a lot of fun, and I do wish you the best with the show. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I can't wait to see it.
Exciting. I will tell you this, that I've been doing this a long time. It's a very cool show, and it's only because of the casting. The cast is like everyone in the cast says it's the most fun they've ever had, and it really shows. It's really, really special. It's really, it's cool. It's very scary. It's not for kids at all. I won't let my kids watch it, even though they're teens, and my son's about to see the Holocaust. I still won't let him watch this.
Okay.
So not for young kids. There's genuine scares in there. There's genuine. I think Courtney's character, who may be either possessed or depressed, says the F word more than The Wire. So,
okay.
Enjoy.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Look forward to checking it out. Thank you, Jeff, for coming down today.
Thank you. Good. Best of luck to you too, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Everybody, thanks for checking out Welcome Back to America Tonight. We'll be back right after this, or not. We'll see. Thanks.